Recording in progress.
We'll begin in just a second. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call us to order right at 1 p.m. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Presiding Chair. Mayor Williams has an excused absence. Mayor Pro Tem Middleton has an excused absence, and so does Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember Baker? Here. Councilmember Caballero?
Here.
Councilmember Cook?
Here.
And Councilmember Rist?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call on my colleagues for announcements, I'm just going to go ahead and kick us off because I know that there's a lot of moving parts happening right now in our wonderful city. I first just want to say that I've been on council since 2018, and this week is probably one of the hardest weeks on this job. We know that there has been immigration enforcement, not just in the city of Durham, but across North Carolina. We know that there were both Border Patrol, which quite frankly has no jurisdiction in the state of North Carolina, unless you're on the coast. We know that there was enforcement activities in Durham, Cary. I heard of things happening in Swansboro, Lenoir, Hickory, Blowing Rock, Boone, and creating terror across our great state, kidnapping and abducting residents across North Carolina. Obviously, we know it began in Charlotte. Many of us have been out doing patrols with our neighbors, going to schools, making sure that our school kids are safe, participating in press conferences, delivering food. And so I want to say thank you to every single neighbor in Durham who stepped up. There is a fund if you would donate at Durham Public Schools Foundation. My understanding is $1,000 to centralized food distribution and other necessities because we know so many folks are not wanting to leave their homes. Thank you. Not wanting to leave their homes, not going to medical appointments, not sending kids to school, and not going to their jobs. Again, there is a centralized food and other necessity fund through Durham Public Schools Foundation. I encourage all Durham residents to donate. The reason it's centralized is so that we don't have small distribution and that burden isn't being held by one or two nonprofits. It's a coordinated effort with about 10 different organizations. If you are going to be if you're going to be home around the holidays this next week, I encourage you to sign up. I encourage you to help distribution and donate if you are able. It has been quiet yesterday and today. I'm going to knock on wood that it continues to be quiet. And I just really want to say thank you to all Durham residents. We really, really stepped up this week. I'm so deeply, deeply grateful and proud of how we took care of one another. And that's what we will continue to do. I always say I bet on Durham, and there's a reason for that. We will always step up and take care of one another. We take care of each other. So thank you so much. I also want to say thank you to Downtown Durham, Inc., the tree lighting that was supposed to happen on Friday of the 21st of November. And my understanding has been moved to Saturday, December 6th, because we know that there's going to be continued community action. And we wanted to ensure that quite frankly, rage and despair still has that place. And it didn't seem prudent to be in that celebratory mood while we know what's happening. So I just really want to say thank you for making that adjustment. And I think that is all I have. I'm going to pass it to whichever colleague would like to go next. I'm not doing down the line. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you to city staff for being here. I'd like to associate myself with all of Councilmember Caballero's comments. It's definitely been a stressful and terrible couple of days here and several days over a week across the state of North Carolina. It's affected so many children in schools, people being out from school, businesses being closed. It's brought so many parts of our city to a standstill. And so we see the direct impacts. We see the videos of people being abducted, as Councilmember Caballero mentioned. But what we don't see is the impacts that this is having on so many households across our city and across our state. And yet there's some light, just incredible organizing from the community who've really stepped up in solidarity with one another. Something to be extremely proud of. It's just the people of this city stepping up to support one another and provide for one another. And so that's something that we should look to, and the resistance and the number of people who have taken to the streets to say this is not okay. And I know that organizing and that resistance will continue. So something to be proud of as we continue to deal with this terrible situation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Caballero, our presiding chair. I like that. Sounds good. Thanks for chairing us this morning. And greetings, colleagues, staff, residents, and those online. Yeah, it's a super emotional time in the Bull City. And I first want to thank Councilmember Caballero for your incredible leadership on all issues related to immigration and refugees. It's having that leadership at this critical time has been so important. So thanks for that. Thanks for colleagues who came out to the press conference. I know Councilmember Cook was there as well. Everybody's doing their part to chip in. And it was a rough election season in Durham, let's be honest. But it's amazing to see folks pull together now like we only can do in Durham in a time of real stress and sadness. And this is part about being in the community and relationships. It's the highs and lows, you know. It's a really rough time. And a lot of us are feeling that and carrying that burden. But it's also been amazing to see people step up, as only people can do in Durham. So I'm so proud of that. And I'll just say, like, as one little microcosm of this thing, you know, in my neighborhood at George Watts Elementary, I want to thank Megan Frothingham, who's I think she's considered the school captain. I mean, people out there, there's residents, parents, ministers, people in costumes, you know, tables out there with information, like whistles printed with a 3D printer. I mean, like everything going on. That's just one school in Durham, and I'm sure every community has similar stories. So I just want to thank everyone for that support, for the outpouring of love for all of our neighbors. It makes a huge difference. And for those up here on the dais who are tasked with being leaders in this community, it feels so good to see everyone stepping up and doing what they can do. So thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. Thanks also to DDI. I know we're going to have a conversation about DDI's downtown master plan. Can't wait for that. But thanks for being willing to push that tree lighting. I understand that people, as Councilmember Caballero said, people want to express their feelings and rage. And so I think having the space for that is really important. Two other things that also not related, but important stuff. I just want to mention first, Councilmember Caballero and I were at the Triangle West TPO Regional Safety Summit today over in Chapel Hill, second annual safety summit, to talk about how we can make our roads safer for pedestrians, for bikers, and not even for folks who drive cars. Just want to note that we've had this year so far, 28 people have died in Durham on our roads. That's 20 people riding in cars, and that's 8 pedestrians. So people continue to get killed on our roads. We're a Vision Zero city for a reason, and that's to make sure that we can get to a point where no one is dying on our roads, whether you drive a car or walk or bike. And so it's still an important objective in the city, and we're going to work our tails off with folks like, I don't know if Sean's here, the Transportation Department and others, to make sure we build the infrastructure so that people can move around our city however they move in ways that are safe and are not dangerous to their health. The last thing is once again, affordable housing, we talk about it all the time. Just to note that tomorrow there's a ribbon cutting for the Renegade, the latest project that we've delivered in Durham. This is led by Durham County. This is 110 units, mixed-use housing, 22% of those units for folks up to 30% AMI, the lowest of income families, 68 units for folks up to 60% AMI, and 20 units for folks up to 80% AMI. So again, like, we hear the call for more affordable housing. Your public bodies are doing that. We can't do it fast enough, but we continue to chip away at the challenge. And this 110 more units of housing, again, with some of those units for the folks of the lowest income. So we're working hard. I know we last Monday, we also worked on some bonds with bond money that's going to fund the Villages of Hayti. That's a new project that you all are helping out with the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative. I know Heather's here. So that's another project that's in the works. We're going to keep building affordable housing because we know it's a challenge. Again, we can't do it fast enough, but we are working on that project. Thanks, Mr. Snell, for being here. This is one of our key objectives, and I want to keep hammering that. Like, we are delivering affordable units for folks who think there's no affordable housing. We are delivering them, and we'll keep doing that. Thank you, Madam Presiding Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cook.
Thank you. I just want to echo a lot of what folks have said here today, which is that I want to recognize that the fear and trauma of the past couple of days are very real, and they're being experienced in a ripple effect, starting kind of in the outskirts by those of us who are seeing these things on videos, and then all the way into folks who are directly impacted by these abductions, and folks who haven't been able to attend school and also to attend work. We know that in North Carolina, in Durham, about half of our renters are cost burdened. And what that means is that you can't afford to miss a day of work. Folks will see that economic impact immediately. We'll be seeing that immediately in eviction court and so many other places. And so I just want to recognize how traumatic and how scary this time is, and just want to echo the thanks to the community members who have stood outside, who have done patrols. I have seen folks at 6 a.m. in the parking lots as soon as businesses opened. Y'all saw me, it's not my best hour, but we were out there. Folks coming by to offer us water and snacks, and folks doing patrols to keep our students safe. I also want to shout out to the businesses that closed down to keep their employees safe. So if y'all hear of businesses that did that, please do patronize those. It's hard for local businesses to shut down even for a day or two. And so I really want to make sure that we are supporting our folks who are really keeping our community safe. I do think, and I think that other folks have been talking about this, that it is the presence of all of this just passionate and organized people that had the impact be minimum. And I don't want to minimalize it, of course, because like I said, it's extremely traumatic, and we did have people that were abducted in Durham, and that's really serious. But we have seen it worse in other places, and I'm hopeful that other cities who are now seeing these influx of agents can take some information from how Durham went, and we can continue to share information and also watch other cities and their reactions, and hopefully create a unified front across the country to make sure that our neighbors are cared for. This is the time, if you haven't done it already, to get to know the people that live in your neighborhood. Walk down the street, talk to your folks, so that when we have another, because I do believe that it's going to come again, when we have another crisis, that folks know who you are and you know who people are in your neighborhood, and you can quickly identify folks and ensure that everybody around you is safe. So thank you so much to everybody for stepping up. I would not have expected anything different of Durham, but I was just so impressed to see the thousands of people who were immediately ready and to step up to the plate. So thank you so much. And just remember that this is a time that we need rest and care. So please take care of yourselves as we're moving forward. We have probably a long haul, and I want to make sure everyone is rested for the future. So take care of yourselves, check on your neighbors, and thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for your work.
Thank you, Councilmember Cook. Next up, City Manager Ferguson, do you have any priority items?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of Council, the City Manager's Office has no priority items.
Thank you. Madam Attorney?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. The City Attorney's Office has no priority items.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have the board and committee report. For the position of youth on the Durham City County Environmental Affairs Board, the nomination is Lena G. Tonkin. On the Citizens Advisory Committee appointment for a general member, one of two nominations is Michael A. Jones, and then the second nomination does not have 4 members consensus. And the next runner-up is Bonita D. Green, who has 3 votes, and David McCole has 2. So if somebody would like to change their vote.
Madam Clerk, have the members who aren't here today, they've not voted, correct?
Councilmember Freeman has voted, but Williams and Middleton have not.
Let's just leave it on GBA.
Okay.
And then that way we can have it for December 1st.
Got it. Okay, thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. I think next up we have our resident or citizen matters or public comment. Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So first up, under administrative consent items under the City Clerk's Office, Durham City County Environmental Affairs Board. Number 2, Citizen Advisories Committee appointments. Number 3, approval of City Council minutes. Under departmental items, under City Council, designation of 500 West Main Street.
Councilmember Caballero, on that, don't want to pull that one, just want to say great news, exciting. So, yeah.
If I can actually ask the staff to pull that just to get some direction, then I'll pull that.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Number 4 is pulled. Under Community Safety Department, item number 5, Second Amendment to contract number 20626 with Open Table Ministry, Inc. to provide temporary weather-related emergency shelter and supportive services.
I'm going to pull that one. Thank you.
Under Environmental and Street Services Department, item number 6, Lakewood and Avenue Stream Stabilization and Enhancement, SP 202502. Under Housing and Neighborhood Services Department, number 7, Subrecipient Agreement with the Housing Authority of the City of Durham, DHA, for the Calvert Place and Main Street Townhomes Rehabilitation.
I'll pull that one as well.
Under Technology Solutions Department, item number 8, contract with ESRI Inc. to adopt a new ArcGIS, thank you, licensing model. Under Water Management Department, item number 9, amendment number 1 to the professional services contract with CDM Smith Inc. for the miscellaneous water line replacement, phase 1 project. Item number 10, amendment 2 to professional services contract number 17641 with Hazen and Sawyer PC for the Williams Water Treatment Plant Basin Improvements Project. And then under presentations, we have under Planning and Development Department, Downtown Durham Inc., Downtown Durham Blueprint. And then for our public hearings on December 1st, under Planning and Development Department, we have item number 12, zoning map change, East Gear Towns. I think I have a speaker for that today. I will say, and I think I am allowed to do this as presiding chair. Since that is a public hearing, I'm not going to be accepting comments. I will leave them to December 1st.
And then citizens matters.
And now we'll move on to public comment under citizens matters. The first, I'm going to go to the person online. I have a Jeremy Bergen. Mr. Bergen, or Bergeron, excuse me if I said that incorrectly. I'm going to go ahead and go to you. You have 3 minutes. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
My name is Jeremy Bergeron. I live at 112 East Piedmont Avenue in the Southside community. I signed up to speak today real briefly, mostly to express my gratitude, even though Councilmember Freeman isn't there. Some people expressed it last night, just our gratitude for her service on the council. I know this election was really tight, and she lost by about 1,800 votes, but there's a lot of people in this city that she really supported that don't really come out to meetings, and I really appreciate her commitment not only to the people of Durham, but also to the land, to the environment, to the water, and just people in general. It's hard to watch these meetings sometimes, especially when they get contentious. And she's been hit from all sides, it seems, even before her tenure. So I want to say I truly appreciate Councilmember Freeman. I'm not necessarily glad she's coming off the dais, but I'm glad she'll be with the people, and I hope that her service continues. The other thing I want to say briefly is I run a project called Post-Traumatic Fresh, and we had a meeting this week, and ICE came up in that meeting too. It's a space where sometimes we have a chosen topic, and we didn't have a chosen topic, but I do want to express that when we say words like this is traumatizing, the seriousness of it, the word trauma from a Greek origin would translate into a piercing wound. And from the Lakota perspective, the translation would be your spirit leaves you. And so there's a lot of children and families and adults and even neighbors that are experiencing a serious piercing wound. And I too echo the council members that express that even in our divide in a local politic, that we can come together for these things and try to support justice. So I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate the city. I appreciate Councilmember Freeman and all the work that she did for the city too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us.
Is that mic working now, or do I need to stay on this mic? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Chris Perlestein.
Good afternoon, City Council members. I want to talk today actually about the encampment that was cleared out recently at on the 400 block of Roxborough Street. I guess I want to start with it was pretty heavy lift. It was quite the large encampment, and I think it had come a bit out of control. And there was a lot of work for city workers to do to clean that up. And I want to thank them for their work. It looked like it was a pretty tough job, and it took multiple days. And so I really appreciate that they got out there and did that. It's probably not a fun job to do. I also want to kind of just talk generally about these kinds of things, right? It's a tough situation when you have something like that going on. And one of the things that I think I do take some comfort in is that I regularly saw Heart out there trying to get folks assistance and mitigate some of the problems that were cropping up. And I'm really happy that that's something that's a priority for our city. So I really also appreciate the work that they did. I'd also like the city to consider when we have land like that, that's actually city land, what we're doing with that kind of long term. You've got folks living in tents. There's obviously a demand for housing here, and we do a lot of effort towards building housing. There's been some talk about that in terms of the new developments on Main Street. But I also think on some of these smaller plots, there's opportunities to do something more productive with it, whether it's a park or even housing for some of these folks who need something a little different, a little bit more assistance. I'd rather see some homes there that are subsidized and provide these folks an option in lieu of having to be in a tent. There's a lot of value too in keeping some of these folks nearby in an area that's denser in terms of accessing services and amenities. And then also in challenging times like we're seeing right now, where you've got ICE coming in, I imagine there's probably folks who are living in tents who are undocumented, right? And being able to more easily support these neighbors with more formalized housing is probably a benefit. I also would like to point out that while this has been a ravine for that hasn't had housing, I think for my entire life, one of the resources I really like to use is opendurham.org, and that block was completely covered in single family homes in the past, right? So when we think about our development moving forward, Durham didn't always look the way it did. A lot of the open space that's parking or undeveloped space around me actually used to be housing back before urban renewal and a lot of the decline that we had gone through previously. And so I hope we'll think about that moving forward. Whether there's something more we can do there. That lot has now been, or I think it's several lots, but have been cleared out pretty substantially now. And so I think there's an opportunity there to maybe explore something that's a little bit more beneficial for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, I have Michael Harris here for public comment.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. The microphone is on. Thank you so much. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I have 3 subjects that I would like to kind of get through quickly. First is my neighborhood, which is Oak Grove Parkway, which is city, which we've been complaining for was 20 years, and a year ago they finally put in street humps, except they did not finish the job. So I have some items here that you can look over to give to the city street people why they did not complete the street humps out from Sterling Road to Oak Grove Parkway up to Highway 98. The other is, my complaint is the development that is happening here on the eastern side of Durham. We're now in a phase whereby residents who have a hard time getting out each day because of the traffic buildup and all this development that you guys have approved over the last several years, and especially these referendums that you have been putting on the minds of taxpayers to vote on. I personally think you guys need to put a stop to this, because as a senior like myself, we're in a fixed income area, and that it is happening to the fact with all this gentrification that's happening, people like myself who are seniors cannot afford all of this tax that you guys are putting burden on us, because we're the ones who are paying for all of this low-income housing, street repairs. The other method is that you have money, something like $93 million, that you have not really used for sidewalks. When it comes to sidewalks, Holloway Street needs sidewalks from all the way up from Mineral Spring Roads all the way down to Highway 70. Therefore, none of that has been attempted. So where's the money going? Why have not you began to use our money that you're getting from us to complete these projects? And the other is that as a citizen here, we have, and others like myself, we have put many years of paying for all the services, but unfortunately, I think that you guys are being sellouts because you are using the developers or putting in profiteering for themselves to look at Durham as something that they can bring in other people, or you guys can bring in other people who have money who can come here to live, but they're coming here to live on the backbone of the persons that have been here for the last 30, 40, 50 years, or let's say a couple of decades, that has maintained the quality of life here in Durham. So somehow you guys got to decide, stop putting on these referendums, especially every 2 to 4 years, to have some kind of proposal that we need parks and we need all of these runways for people to move around in, and yet there's only the visitors, the new ones that are coming here are using it, but most of us are not. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Next up, I have Haley Cunningham. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Dr. Haley Cunningham. Many of you all know me. I am the co-chair of the Coalition to End the HIV Epidemic in Durham and also an HIV care provider at Radical Healing. I just wanted to thank Bob Ferguson for responding to Chelsea Cook's request for some information about why the request for proposals was withdrawn earlier this spring to be able to use unused HOPWA funds. Essentially, the response said that it was deemed that Healing with Care and Partners in Caring lacked capacity to administer the funding without explaining why or what sort of capacity would have been necessary. I had a few concerns about the response, one being that the city itself and the city administrators have seemed to not have capacity to administer the funds for a few years at least. And so it didn't feel right to say that community organizations lack capacity when it hasn't been used previously. Additionally, my understanding is that the funds could be used to build capacity. So for example, Healing with Care has been operated by Ms. Carolyn Hinton and a few others for years. It has been very challenging after COVID to have funding. So Ms. Carolyn is housing 4+ folks at any given time without any reimbursement since December, and that is not sustainable. And with HOPWA funding, that is how you hire folks to do the work. I'm here, other folks on the coalition are advocating for use of HOPWA funds for a change in the system without being paid to do so. And of course, I don't have the capacity to run anything, but if we could utilize that money to pay folks who have the expertise, have the drive, we would have capacity. And it's also interesting that now there is an agreement or a contract with DSS to administer most HOPWA funds when they have not been able to do so in the past just because of structural barriers. They've got a lot of other things on their plate. And also there should not be one entry point to access HOPWA funds, and it should not be through DSS because a lot of folks have burned bridges there. A lot of folks need special care, special attention, and help with health conditions that DSS cannot handle. And so I'm calling upon you to sit down and meet with our coalition members. It would be lovely to meet with Bo Ferguson, Chelsea Cook, Carl Rust, others who are interested, as well as city council or city staff, to really work together on a plan. Because so far, I've been talking at y'all and we've been receiving information, but the collaboration's not there, and I think we could accomplish a lot together. Thank you.
Thank you. Manager Ferguson, I don't know if you wanted to.
Sure. I just want to appreciate the comments, Ms. Cunningham and others who have advocated around the issue of HOPWA funding. I think I speak for staff when I say I agree. I think there is room for discussion around capacity building, and I think the staff who are administering the program, and as you know, we have new leadership coming into the Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. I think it's a priority for us to lean into those conversations. I think some of the discussions over the last couple of months have been what to do right now and what can we do right now with the funding we have. And I think the intention to commit those funds to DSS is an understanding that there's capacity there that is able to expend those funds. But I want to acknowledge and lean into the fact that we're very interested in continuing dialogue with community partners who want to do capacity building and help us spend these funds. So those are conversations we will have. I know staff advised me we've got a meeting set up tomorrow. So I think I would just like to commit that we'll continue those conversations.
Okay. What kind of meeting? Is it an open meeting?
No, it's a staff meeting with one of our community partners, and I think I'll leave it at that. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next person I have is Thomas Hennessy.
Hello, thank you. Nice to be. Oh,
thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you all finally in person. First off, Mr. Manager, Mr. Assistant Manager, I can't tell you, first, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to our concerns. Thank you for acting so quickly. Keith, I know we had some tense discussions and respectfully, it's just the residents there on Queen Street and the issues that Chris brought up, you know, it's concerning when kids can't play in their backyard. So again, some of the city projects, it's been frustrating to watch. Carl, you've alluded to it in some meetings and how they drag on and drag on and drag on. You hear it many times that, you know, the city just, you know, for some reason can't get things done. And it was absolutely tremendous. Mr. Manager, thank you for acting so quickly. Clearly, like Chris said, there's a need for more shelters, more affordable housing. We have a great relationship with the Durham VA. I try to provide housing for homeless veterans. We try to do our part. There needs to be a public-private relationship, and we need to do this together. But there is an article recently, I'm sure you may have seen it, with the struggles through Durham Habitat and the CEO and the drama, but there are a few statements there which, you know, Durham Habitat, apparently they're starting to sell homes at market rate. That's extremely concerning. They raise really good issues: taxes, insurance, building costs. You know, Carl, it's tremendous progress that the city is helping and doing interest-free loans for 100 units, but in a city of 300,000, that's a drop in the bucket. We need hundreds and hundreds more. And it's extremely difficult when you watch an organization with free labor and donated materials who say, we can't do this at a price for families who need it. And it's a concern. And I've watched every single council meeting for the last couple of years, every single work session, JCCPC. Nate, I know, there's been some pressure to say, like, how do we do this? And like, nobody for the last 2 years has been talking about opportunity zones. Durham has opportunity zones. There are favorable incentives that can promote development within those zones, both on the investment side, on the sales side. There's ways to create hybrid models for rent product, for sale product. And it's frustrating that no one's seeing it. I don't know the right forum to get more involved, but I see I'm running out of time. I really want to mention one thing, more than happy to do meetings or talk and share and collaborate on ideas, but the rail trail is a concern. You hear about all the struggles happening, but yet the city, with its parks closed down, fenced off, lead, contamination, yet the city somehow finds $45 million for a rail trail. It's $2.5 million for every 1/10 of an acre. How? What's going on? We question certain things, but I've never seen anyone question a bill, an invoice, paying consultants millions and millions and millions of dollars when people are struggling. I really hope. So much. I really hope another time I'll expand more.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That is all I have for public comment this afternoon. So we'll move on to our pulled agenda items. Mr. Manager, what I have is number 4, 5, and 7. Okay. I think number 4 was by staff.
So I only pulled this for procedural purposes. This was placed on the agenda by Mayor Pro Tem Mark Anthony Middleton following council procedures. The first step in that is for a council member to request it be placed and for council to consent. That happened at the last work session. Normally what would happen at the next work session is that council member would lead a conversation amongst council members about their intent. The intent of this item is, as I understand it from the Mayor Pro Tem and from the materials you had in your packet, that the council, if so interested, could designate the property that is currently the home of the Durham History Museum to remain and be designated permanently as the home of the Durham History Museum. I pulled this procedurally to advise council members that the next step, if you wanted to proceed with this, would be to go ahead and ask staff to bring this forward as a formal item. I would refer this to the real estate division. They would come back with what I suspect is a resolution that would simply confer that. That resolution is not in the packet for you today. So the matter for your consideration today is simply to provide this as direction to staff. If that is your choice to do so, we are prepared to receive that and wanted to offer that since the Mayor Pro Tem is absent today.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Councilmember Rist.
Yeah, if the request is just you want to request from us to bring back a formal item, I would support that 100%. I know Councilmember Caballero has been on the board of the History Museum as well.
I was just part of the working group.
The working group, yeah. So, yeah, I think it's exciting. I think it's, we've been having conversations. I know Director Mucklow's here. We've been talking about permanent home for the museum. I think it's a great idea. It's been an amazing part of our downtown landscape. So, yeah, let's do it.
Thank you. Council members Cook or Baker, any comments? Are you all comfortable with moving it? Okay, thank you. So I am as well. I think you have what you need from us.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
As soon as the item is ready, we'll place it on the next available work session. We'll certainly inform the museum when that's scheduled.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you to Mayor Pro Tem. I know he's not here today for making sure we move this forward. Thank you. Councilmember Cook, I think you are up.
Yes. Hi. This is actually more of an informational thing because I know there's been a couple of amendments and I just wanted you to speak to, the one both back in August and the one that we're talking about today, how that has furthered this program, and then also was hoping that we could just have a better understanding in how moving the money from shelter expenses to admin activities is helpful. And then I think today we're doing a reduction in documentation requirements, just what that looks like in real practice and why it is helpful for us.
Sure, yes. I'll answer some of these questions. Ryan Smith, Director of Community Safety. I'll ask Colin Davis to come up and answer some of your questions, Councilmember Cook. You had a number of items there. I wonder if could you actually restate them one more time for me?
Yes, I could. So I'm just curious about the amendments to start off and how moving money from shelter expenses to admin activities, that was the amendment we did in August.
Right.
How that helped further.
Okay. Yeah. Can I take one at a time? I'll answer that one.
And then I will go for it.
So in the previous amendment, there was a change to move. We had roughly 79,000 that was left over from last White Flag for Open Table Ministries that was not used. in order to stand up the new shelter, because they had to move locations this year to Asbury United Methodist, they had spent their admin dollars, and part of what they used their admin dollars for was to do the necessary inspection of that property in order to get it approved by the fire marshal and others so that we could use that space. So we did the amendment that was basically just moving money from the shelter side to a little bit of the admin side for that express purpose of being able to make sure that this new site could be inspected, they could pay for the inspection fees by an architect so that we could move that process forward so that the shelter could open on time, which it did. Good news, it opened this past weekend to offer 20 beds every night during the winter of expanded capacity, and that's great. So that's why we did that.
Cool. And then this one is the reduction in documentation requirements. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think, as contracts have come over to our department, one of the things we have been looking at is what documentation are we requiring of providers? What is the reason for that documentation? Does it support the overall outcomes that we need? In some cases, we were requiring of providers a level of documentation required by HUD and federal grantees that is necessary for those, but not necessary for the things that we really care about and the numbers that we look at. And so we were looking for ways where it was just coming out of the designated housing fund to really ask ourselves the fundamental question that we should ask in contracts, which is, what is the reporting that we need? What are the things that we care about? And what things are there opportunities here to streamline this so that we're not creating added unnecessary administrative burden for our providers and that we're getting the information that we need to be good stewards of public dollars. And so we did take the advantage in this as we're looking at other contracts that think about opportunities to streamline reporting so that it makes sense and it doesn't create unnecessary burden.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate that as just a general idea that I do think that we sort of in the city get trapped sometimes into this like over documentation, which of course transparency is very important. But when we're talking about efficiency and getting work done, I like to hear that we're taking a second look at those. So I was excited to see this item. And you touched on it already, but I was wondering if you could say again what we're offering. And I don't know if Open Table is on the call and they want to do it or if you want to do it, but just give us an in-depth summary because I know people have been sharing the information, but I want to make sure that everyone
this is a good chance to talk about that. Yep. So I'll talk about it specific to this and I'll say a few high-level remarks about White Flag in general. So Open Table has been one of the city's primary partners in providing additional safe, warm places for people to sleep during the coldest nights of the year. We refer to those locally. We often talk about White Flag. White Flag is triggered when the weather report forecasts that it's going to be 35 degrees with precipitation or 32 degrees and below. On those nights, because we do not have sufficient shelter capacity, I think, the more recent numbers have been about 150 single adults on a wait list and anywhere from 50 to 60 families on wait lists for shelter. On the coldest nights, the city is working to expand shelter capacity to provide more safe, warm spaces. Open Table, for whom this contract is for, has been a critical partner in that. Historically, they have provided 20 beds on White Flag nights. This contract is a little different this year. It's the same amount, but it's going to be 20 beds every night for 4 consecutive months. And that's really important. We will still have...
Not just White Flag nights.
So for this contract, it is not just White Flag. It started this past weekend and it will run through mid-March. But it is 20 extra 20 extra shelter beds during the coldest time of the year. It doesn't cost us more to do it. We're doing it at that same, and it's actually more efficient for the partner Open Table because it is harder for them to staff overnight on only when White Flag is triggered. So it's easier for them to recruit and staff, and then it provides us a consistent extra 20 beds in the coldest time of the year. And so I think that's a great addition that we're able to make to White Flag this season, and appreciate Drew and his team at Open Table for finding a way to do that. So that's one piece. We've historically added 20. We're continuing to add 20, but it's just available more nights. And when you think about it, it's critically important that we find ways on the coldest nights when it drips below freezing. But if you've ever been outside and it's 38 degrees and you've tried to sleep in that, you know that's also like a really important way that we can provide safety and dignity to folks. And so I'm glad that in this way we're able to do a little bit more of that. Just a couple other things about White Flag in general. I'm very proud of the work that folks on the HOPE team, which is our homeless services team, has done to try to expand additional capacity. So we have done a few things I'll highlight. We have increased partnerships. We have new folks who are coming to the table to support this work. We've been working with Durham Can and DCIA to really ask faith communities and other community organizations to find ways that they can step up to help us provide more safe, warm spaces for people to sleep. In that work, we've created a campaign called 100 Days of Warmth that's offering folks ways that they can both contribute funds to organizations that are doing this work, they can volunteer for those organizations, and they can help us identify spaces that might serve as extra shelter. One of the good things coming out of this, and I'm not going to name this specific location until we have all the details finalized, but we do have and will have in December a new family shelter that will be opening up, and we'll provide details as soon as we get all that finalized. We'll provide up to 50 more spaces for families on the coldest nights of the year, which is great. Historically, Families Moving Forward has been our core partner, and they have, in addition to what they do every year, have added 4 additional rooms, and they'll continue to do that. But this is going to be a major expansion of safe, warm places for people, for families to sleep. And as I've shared with you, we have had, on average, roughly about 50 families on wait lists for shelter. So that's a great new thing that we're providing this year. And again, added partnerships are making that possible through the faith community and others who are stepping up. Urban Ministries expands capacity on White Flag Night, as does, I mentioned, Families Moving Forward. So Urban Ministries adds extra beds. They have been a great partner in this space. We have DCRC, which is this year becoming a White Flag partner and adding additional space. So all that has been, I think, really positive in adding more safe, warm spaces for people in Durham. And then I'll say the other 2 things is that we're really increasing coordination. So we bring all of the providers in this space weekly together to talk about and we've been doing a lot of prep work, but they're doing that throughout White Flag to talk about what was our utilization rate? Did we have beds that were unused? How can we think about any challenges that are emerging? Are we seeing issues, for example, with folks being discharged out of the hospital and we don't have places for them around medically vulnerable? So it's a great place of bringing all of our providers together to do that work in partnership. And then we've added on a layer in response to what we heard from our providers of providing overnight coordination, because we also got Volunteers for America that runs coordinated entry to increase their hours. So they're now operating up until 9 p.m., which is really critical because they're designed to be a front door. So they've expanded their hours. So appreciative of that. And then we've layered on top of that, we go on call. We have a team who goes on call so that if a first responder or someone encounters someone overnight who needs shelter, they have a single number they can call as opposed to trying to guess which of our various spaces may have beds available. We coordinate so we can make sure we utilize those beds, because one of the challenges we also faced last White Flag is, say one of our shelters may have beds that get reserved, but someone doesn't show up. And we didn't have a capacity to make sure that then we could then know that there was an empty bed that we could fill that night, and now we do. And we've already seen increased utilization as a result. So I think the team on a bunch of different fronts is trying to make sure we utilize what we have, add capacity where we can, increase collaboration and partnership. And I think these are all positive steps forward this season, and that's more than you asked.
That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you so much, because I'd already read it, but it's great to hear it again. Just out of curiosity.
Yes.
Sorry to raise this up because I know that this is a thing that gets talked about a lot. But you mentioned before that people are in danger at temperatures that are above 32 degrees. With this being our city dollars, is there any opportunity to change that? Because I know that 32 degrees is I think it's a federal guideline. Is that true, or is that a city set number?
Well, that's a good question. I actually don't know the history behind. Do you know, Colin, can you speak to that? Please come up.
Good afternoon, Colin Davis, Contract Manager and Community Safety Department. So historically, we've used 32 because that's the freezing temperature. It's not a federal mandate. It's just what we've used as the cutoff, and then we've expanded it to 35 with precipitation. It could be any number that we choose. It's also looking at where are people most at danger, and nationwide, most communities use 32 as their cold weather cutoff if they don't do it on a nightly basis. There are communities like we're doing, and we've done in the past, every night from November 1st, December 1st, whatever date communities pick for the cold weather season.
Thank you. Yeah, that is interesting. I thought it was a nationwide thing, and so that's interesting to hear that we've sort of come up with that number. I'm just, it's relatively consistent across communities, is what I'm hearing. Just to push back on that and something to be thinking about, because we now have these consistent 20 extra beds, but these are not family beds. These are single beds that we have now for the entirety of November 15th through March 15th. And we are still seeing all of our extra family rooms and spaces that only open are triggered by temperature. So just as a thought, that maybe we consider raising that, because what we're looking at is folks who have children, and we know that they're going to be more vulnerable. So just something to think about. Would love to see it. I know there's like always debates on like which weather app to use and all these different things, but we did have somebody that died last year in this area, had a degree that was not a white flag triggering temperature, and so I just want to keep raising that, because it's something that concerns me all winter long.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It concerns us too, and I appreciate that, and we'll look into it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Cook, next item.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Matt Walker, Housing and Neighborhood Services. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, just a few questions about this. So I understand that this is a city match requirement. Curious to know how that amount was reached, and then what and then like how the projects are vetted for that city match.
Okay, so in the choice neighborhood application, that was a joint application with the city and the housing authority. Part of the regulations to earn the maximum points, excuse me, is for the city to commit the $1.5 million in CDBG to the overall effort.
So that's a number that's set by the application to get the maximum
Correct.
amount of points. And then how do we vet the projects that we spend our city match money on?
Well, the projects, because it's a joint application between the city and the housing authority, that was vetted on the departmental level with DHA, and there's also, I guess, advisory committees. So this was proposed by the housing authority in consultation with our department director.
Okay, so but it originated from DHA. I'm just interested to know like how, because it's money that we're spending. Obviously, I know we're spending it in partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious to know how we are vetting the projects, and if there's conversation around how much we're spending or this type of thing, because we're going to have kind of a funny small amount left over after this project in our city match amount.
Well, actually, the 1.5 was committed, and there's two projects. One project is under the manager's threshold, so it's not on the agenda. We also have $250,000 that's going toward the Hayti facade improvement project.
Okay, so we've already, that was part of my question.
Yes.
So we've already allocated our other one.
That's correct.
Yeah, and then I guess for me when I'm looking at this, and it's just helpful for me to understand, and we've expressed this about other things too, but when I'm thinking about the monetary expenditure here and I'm like looking at this, it's helpful for me to kind of know like what y'all are balancing when you're making the decision to spend this money here, because although I think that y'all probably have done the calculations to ensure that this is like the way to spend it to make the most impact in the city, it's helpful for us to be able to see that analysis so that we can sort of explain why this is the project that we've chosen to do.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it, I think, is that when I see rehabilitation of a DHA property, that triggers in my mind that that's a DHA responsibility. And so it's just interesting to then have our city match money. And of course, I know it's part of like an application that was done as a whole and we partner with them. But that would be helpful information for us to know. It's just like how we kind of came to this decision, how we know that this is like the greatest impact for our dollars, if that makes sense.
We did. We did go through some other alternatives. If it's okay, I can get back to you with that information.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Rist.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Yeah, and it's crazy how time flies. I remember the old Few Gardens. It's like 20 years ago that we renovated, or actually rehabbed the whole Few Gardens and built the Calvert Place and the Main Street Townhomes. So I just appreciate that you all are working with DHA to get that $40 million Choice Neighborhoods Initiative grant to do a lot of good in this city, including renovating these apartments that are critical. It's 118 units of affordable housing. So thanks for being on top of that and making sure those units are still ones we can use and safely and affordably house families. So thank you.
Thank you.
I did have one more question, which is if the rehabilitation costs less or more than the money that's allocated, does DHA bridge that gap, or does the city, or how does that work?
Well, we happen to have representatives from DHA here.
Hello. Mr. Snell's getting tired of me pulling him up here.
I always say that, say my name and then say interim CEO. I almost feel like I'm part of the city staff over the last month or so. So I appreciate your questions, but there's an important fact here when we look at these two developments. This was part of an overall strategy to preserve 226 units of affordable housing. This was part of DHA's strategy to acquire the ownership of these properties once they had gone through their LIHTC period. So we have the options under these transactions. We exercise our options to become the 100% owner of them. We buy out the tax credit investors, they exit, and we take care of, other costs that are related to this. So although we are focused on these two properties, which are in the C&I footprint, in which these dollars could only be used for these particular properties in the C&I footprint, it's part of a larger strategy, and it was part of the preservation of these units so that they would be long-term affordable units. So I think that's important to know as we take a look at them. Yep. And the rehabilitation is part of this. This is part of the long-term preservations. There are dollars that are generated from the operation of these properties that will be applied to this work as well.
That is so helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
That information.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker, did you have any questions? No. Okay. I just wanted to say thank you. I remember when we won this award, it was a huge honor. Quite frankly, this was a ton of money that came to Durham. So I just want to thank our partners at DHA. I remember when it was awarded and a lot of folks from HUD came down, and it was competitive. There were a lot of folks vying for this money. So it's a good thing that Durham got it. Thank you. Thank you. That is all I have for pulled items. So I think our last item is our presentation for the Downtown Durham Blueprint.
Bud Rinsky with the Planning Development Department. I'm just standing here to introduce Nicole Thompson with TDI to present the blueprint plan. And that's really all I've got. Obviously, I'll be around for any questions that you'll have.
Thank you.
Good, Nicole.
The other role Mr. Dobrinsky will play, as a reminder, is if at the conclusion of the presentation, would love to get some thoughts and direction from council about next steps. We sort of purposely left this open-ended. Council has some decisions to make, and the planning development department may have a role if council chooses to consider more formally adopting the plan. So we've got Mr. Dobrinsky here for that as well.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Manager, Madam Council Member, and all council members. Here to talk to you about the Downtown Durham Blueprint. This is something that we have been mentioning and discussing for a couple of years, and we're very excited that we have a final document to bring to you, and we're very hopeful that you will consider this and adopt this as an official city plan. We have taken this to the Planning Commission back in October, in October, presented to the Planning Commission, and now we're coming to you to present. So with that, here we go. Here's the agenda that what we'll go through. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about public engagement and how we have tried to include plans, previous, current, future plans into our plan, what we are seeing happening in the downtown area today, and then dive a little bit into the vision, the goals, the strategies, and then finally share a little bit about implementation. I figure that I have a good solid 3 hours to go through this because I know you all like to be here. Yeah, 5. So I'm going to try to take my time and talk really slowly because I know you all want to do that. Before I get started, we did work with a group out of Philadelphia. Interface Studio was the lead consultant on this, chosen through a competitive RFP process. They had with them 4 other firms that they worked with. The local firm was Black Space. But they also worked with And Access around the retail, small business piece, Ninegorot Partners, which worked on the economic development business piece, larger business recruitment piece, and all together, which helped with the engagement. So actually 3, not 4. So that is who we worked with. They were great to work with, really helped us a lot with the engagement, and really have put together what we believe to be a solid plan. We also had a part of this process, a steering committee, which was created of about 13 members that we can share with you, but it was covering all sorts of representatives throughout the Durham community, and we have been engaging with them up until about 6 months ago. So our public engagement, we believe that we have touched close to 3,000 people through our process. We spent probably a good solid year working to get the engagement right, making sure that we were popping up at the right places, and in fact going out sometimes beyond the downtown border and trying to interact with and engage individuals who might visit. But here's a list of all the ways that we touched, talked to, participated, interacted with people. Of course, what's a plan without a survey? So we started off with a survey where we hit about 2,200 people, working with our partners who pushed it out through all of their different social channels. But then we did a number of pop-ups. We did a kickoff at our State of Downtown Durham event. We did a follow-up touch at our last State of Downtown Durham event. In order to ensure that we were reaching into communities, we actually did a very special Black Voices of the Future panel working with Motorco, where we had a panel of individuals talking about the future of downtown Durham, and then also kind of exploring ways that they would, what they saw the future being. We had an open house in January. We were very excited that we had 200 participants because that was a snow day. And we were excited to work with Pickleback in order to host that pop-up event, but happy that we were able to get 200 people who came, some with children. So we actually got quite a bit of feedback from youth. Our survey was done working with partners. It was pushed out in Spanish so that we could ensure that we were getting Spanish input as well. We are considering the possibility of how we can ensure that some of this material is translated into Spanish. Perhaps it could be our quick guide, but we are looking at, once this becomes an official document, how we can make sure that we continue to engage with that community. We did any number of interviews. We all talked quite a bit with our local businesses, and as I mentioned, our steering committee. These are just some examples of the pop-ups that we participated in. I will call out that we attended the NCCU Eagle Mania last year, the back to school block party, something that we initiated and we're working with DHA. Quite a bit of input from that. We worked with our Latino Credit Union many times at the farmers market, and all this is the great work of All Together. These are some pictures from the Black Voices of the Future panel that we held in collaboration with Black Space and Motorco. And then our Durham Future Fest. This was the event that we had in January. This is when we first started unveiling some of our goals and visioning, just to make sure that we were on the right track. Again, what's a plan if you don't have a chance for folks to put colored dots and Post-it notes? So we, as you can see, we had that, but asking them to really respond to the things that really spoke to them and did not speak to them. We also have a page on our website, and people can request to be added to that, and they get notified of information, and as we are doing updates, they continue to get notified of those things. So what we heard, I'll run through these: more communication, more enhanced wayfinding, meaningful engagement that leads to action. I think we have heard that in all of our plans that have come before you. We very much heard in our engagement, how do we honor Durham's history? How do we keep up and make sure that we are uplifting the rich cultural heritage? How do we support our small minority women-owned businesses? How do we make sure that downtown feels like a neighborhood with diverse housing options? I will stress that affordable, but also middle missing income. How do we invest in infrastructure, safe streets, safe streets, and more accessible for downtown? So this is looking at mobility, bikes, scooters, but then just other issues around mobility. And then how we can transform our public spaces. We have quite a few. People tend to overlook them, but we have quite a few quirky, wonderful open spaces. How do we make them inviting? How do we make them safe? How do we utilize them? So that's what we have heard. I won't read these. These are just some of the things that we have pulled out that people said they liked or that they would like to see. It's pretty impactful when you read some of the things that we did receive, but this is just kind of a shout of some of those things that we heard. But from all of that, we came to that there were 3 key priorities that were really going to be the foundation of our blueprint. And that was that we would keep downtown safe and welcoming, that we would keep Durham, that is getting to the culture and the strategy, the culture and the history that makes downtown so unique, and that we would remain a vibrant and growth-oriented downtown. So with that, oh, no, that is correct. Sorry, I'm out-thinking myself. Prior to getting to our goals, we recognized that there were any number of plans that were being done in, around, and adjacent to downtown. And it didn't make sense for us to continue to do our plan without really touching and bringing those groups together. So we had a meeting where we had representatives from all of these plans attend at the Carolina Theater. They hosted us there, and we had a chance for everyone to kind of come together and really talk about their plans and how those plans fed into our plan, how we could support those plans, how those plans could support our plans. So we have done one of those meetings. It is our intent that we will do more meetings, probably not bringing everybody in the space, but around the different strategies, bringing these individuals, these plans back together and checking in to ensure that we are collaborating as we can. Nobody wants to get on the opposite side of a plan. I will say, because I know everyone is quite aware of the Destination Master Plan, that is a plan that we are very much working very closely with Susan and Tara as they roll that plan out. That has some direct correlations to things that we want to do, and there's quite a bit of support between both of them. But there are other plans, especially within the Transportation Department, that we continue to work with individuals on. So what are we seeing? What's happening today? And this is important because if you think back to 5 years ago, downtown looked and felt much different than it does today. And it's just going to state the obvious. But we know that new construction is rapidly changing the feel and the cost of living. Hybrid work policies are decreasing workday foot traffic, which is impacting our small businesses. We no longer have the 9 to 5 or the 8 to 6 workforce in the downtown area. We are still tracking that, and if you're downtown, you know Mondays and Fridays are a little slow. Things pick up a little bit on Tuesday. Wednesday might be a good day. Thursday could be a good day. But our businesses continue to try to figure out how to operate a business when a significant part of their business model is no longer coming to where they are. Downtown open spaces, all of them need a makeover. And how can we offer more for people to do in those spaces? We have a number of one-way roads and disjointed streets. How do we work with the city to improve those and make them more accessible by car, bus, but also pedestrian, bike, and scooter? Parking is an issue. You know, could I really get up here and talk to you if I didn't say something about parking? Parking is an issue in downtown, both for customers and for employees. So how can we work through those issues? Downtown's anchors and food and beverage establishments, we need more variety. We have a lot of restaurants. We've got a lot of places to find a great drink. We need more variety in the downtown. How can we work to identify what that variety looks like and bring that into the downtown area? Safety concerns continue to be something that is brought up, perceptions of safety. and that there are also these perceptions that downtown isn't for everyone. The cost of being downtown, not having affordable spaces in downtown, not having open spaces in downtown. So how can we work to change that perception? And finally, despite these challenges, downtown must remain unique, cool, quirky, and funky. So here are our 7 goals. I'm going to go through each one of them, not in a lot of detail, but enough so that you know what they are. But we're very pleased with these. I think they get to quite a bit of the things that we need to address in order to move downtown forward. First one is rooted and ready. And this is how do we celebrate the heritage that is so important to Durham? How do we celebrate the culture that is so important to Durham in the downtown area? How do we make it a welcoming space for everybody? These are the strategies, objectives for those. First and foremost, we do a lot of talking about creating destinations in downtown, and it was brought, we all know this, but you kind of overlook it. Our consultants said we already have it. You have it with Paris Street. You have it with a street that is ripe for good sound development, uplifting the history that exists there. You have great parks that exist on the end of that. How can you bring all of that together? How can you tie it to CCB Plaza? Also looking at how we can work with our partners to create a hub for the growing Latino community in the downtown area. We know that we have a very strong presence, and how can we support that so that it's not a one-off, but it is as constant and as readily known as the Black Wall Street culture that exists. How do we create more destinations for families, high quality? What does that look like? Is it parks? Is it museums? How do we bring more families into the downtown area? How do we encourage public art within the public realm? And then finally, how do we streamline the permitting process to make all of these things easier, especially for events? Our second goal is open for business. This is supporting our small businesses and making sure that they feel heard, that they feel safe, and that they have customers continuing to come to them. Here we have 7 objectives. These are looking at developing a centralized program for public safety. How do we help to ensure that they have ways to report issues that are impacting their business? How do we preserve affordable ground space for small businesses, making that affordable? How do we provide TA to support the downtown retailers and restaurants? Developing strategic parking and loading management for businesses and customer use. If you are in the downtown area, there are times when you're coming up and there's a delivery truck parked in the road and their cars trying to get by. How do we ensure that our curb management is allowing for all of these uses in a very small downtown footprint without causing undue issues or challenges? Appoint a dedicated coordinator to guide businesses and ombudsman through the permitting process. Expanding business hours and programming to capitalize on downtown events. That is working with our small businesses, and they are well aware of when we're doing an event or there's a big event, how we can encourage them to stay open later so that they can capture that additional foot traffic, and then address gaps and needs for increased variety of businesses through strategic tenant recruitment. So what is important there is developing a plan and then going out and recruiting. And that plan is looking at how we can ensure that downtown is offering things that make downtown attractive. That is getting a little bit to how can we entice folks with creative ways to address parking, ways to help with upfit, things of that nature. Our third strategy is welcome home. Our goal is welcome home. Sorry, it's right there. I missed it. Our third goal is welcome home, and that is how do we build a true neighborhood where we have the diverse housing options that people want in a downtown area and that we have the amenities to support them. Through that, we are looking at how we can work with the city to identify and reserve publicly owned sites for future mixed income and mixed use development. While it is important to continue to have housing, we also need to understand that we need some additional mixed use development occurring in the downtown area. How do we coordinate with supportive housing providers and advocates to address the needs of the unhoused? And I'll talk a little bit about how some of these things we're already addressing. Developing a micro grant program for community-led implementation. These are small grants. Someone has an idea to come and put a planner in front of their store for $500 just to make the store look nicer, or very small little pop-up ways to just make downtown look nice, led by the community. Continuing to engage downtown residents to promote a sense of community, and then set clear expectations for how key development sites should be designated. Again, working very closely with our city as we look at those development opportunities and how we can ensure that they're catalytic and driving good sound development for downtown. Our fourth goal is walk and roll. This is all around mobility. How do people get around downtown? How do they get around downtown in a safe manner, regardless of how they want to move through the downtown area? What's a master plan if we don't talk about the loop? So of course, we have a redesign of the loop. We feel that is very important. That it has to be redesigned. That redesign is our preference would be to look at working with the city and the state, recognizing that that is a state-owned road. How do we two-way that loop? And then if we cannot, if there are just things that will not allow it, then how do we make sure that that one-way loop is conducive and is not a barrier from folks walking from the core of downtown over the railroad tracks to ATC or up north towards Durham Central Park, and the great things that Durham Central Park now wants to do through its vision, and also the old ball field and the rail trail. How do we strengthen automobile connections along key streets and between anchor destinations? An example of this is along the Blackwell, Corcoran, Foster Street, but also Gregson, Duke, Roxborough, and Mangum. So how do we work with the city to ensure those things happen? And there we go, strengthening connections along Foster, Corcoran, Blackwell as a major pathway. Fifth goal, common grounds. Downtown will be filled with inviting, connected, and well-utilized public spaces. This gets back to we have so many of these spaces. How do we ensure that we're using them in a way that they're inviting and encouraging people to linger in our downtown? Come, grab lunch, sit outside, enjoy the experience. Kids jumping around, playing, those kinds of things. Improving the connections between our open spaces. So we have quite a few open spaces that are already underway. How do we make sure that people can connect to them easily? Upgrading CCB Plaza. It is a wonderful place, and as we know, it is a place where folks gather to show displeasure, to show solidarity. How do we ensure that we keep that space for that purpose, but how do we also make sure that it is used on the hottest day in July, where there is no shade, and while we have umbrellas out there right now, it does a little for what it could be. How do we redesign the Convention Center Plaza so that it is less brick and concrete and more appealing, and then people can move throughout the area. It is conducive to folks with mobility challenges. How do we leverage the uniqueness of downtown's alleys? We have quite a few alleys. What could we do to encourage people to use them? Many of them can connect. An alternative from walking down Corcoran, Foster, you could use the alley system, and how do we draw people to the alleys and thereby also have them experience the businesses that are adjacent to those alleys? How do we leverage the unique, I just said that one. Position the YMCA as a downtown anchor, given its relocation. How do we continue to work to ensure that it remains a central anchor in our downtown area? It is one of the places in our downtown, really, that all incomes and all people do continue to visit. And then how do we provide more shade downtown? Our sixth goal, only two more. Downtown works. How do we recruit businesses? How do we ensure that our downtown is home to companies of all sizes? We need jobs. We are an employment center. So how do we make sure that we are bringing jobs to the downtown area, jobs that make sense for Durham, that speak our language, that speak and uphold our values, and then also support our businesses that are in the downtown area, our local businesses. Objectives. Preserve their old, funkier downtown buildings for affordable office space. We have quite a few that still exist. We're one of the few communities where we have those. Or is it possible to work with the private property owners in ensuring that those spaces remain these funky one-story buildings that can be conducive and open to small businesses? How do we re-tenant existing office space in whatever manner that might look like as we move forward? How do we explore conversion of existing commercial buildings into lab space? And I will say other ideas, recognizing that maybe it's not lab space, but there are other things that would make sense for the downtown area. And then finally, how do we keep event-driven economic activity in the downtown area? Again, our small businesses need people. We have a very walkable city. How do we make sure that those event-leading opportunities stay in the downtown area so that people can mingle and walk through the cool place that we have? And then finally, the more you know is getting to how we DDI and working with our partners, ensure that people know what's happening, that we communicate with our residents, we communicate with our visitors, we communicate with our businesses, let them know what's happening in the downtown area. That's improving the perception of safety in downtown through marketing and messaging. That is changing the narrative that downtown isn't for everyone, trying to uplift the inviting spaces that we have, the menu options that our restaurants offer that are affordable, the festivals that are free and are open to people of all backgrounds. How do we highlight the affordable opportunities within downtown? And then how do we unify downtown by promoting destinations rather than districts? This is not saying that we would move away from our districts, but really letting people know you're in the district where the Carolina Theater is. Go to the Carolina Theater, and these are the things around the Carolina Theater. Go to the Durham Food Hall in Durham Central Park, and these are the things that are in that area. So that's a little bit, this is the overall vision. This is just a really pretty picture that we really like, so we're sharing it. It's kind of showing you how all of these things are fitting together in our downtown area, how we can move and work these things together. So now the implementation. As a part of our RFP and requirement is we wanted to work with a group that would go beyond just the visioning. That's always fun. Everybody likes to do the visioning and do the renderings, and it's like, oh, wow, yay. And then we all feel great, and we present it to you, and you all go, oh, wow, yay. And then a year later, no one has remembered it. This is how we're going to keep ourselves accountable. We have a very detailed implementation schedule. Matrix. We are working, removing this from a spreadsheet that it's currently in, how we would uplift this into Asana so that we really can make sure that we are keeping track of the objectives and the goals and the strategies. So this is just a picture. It's really, really small. That's to let you all know that there's a lot in there. So we have probably 70 pages of just implementation information broken down by goals. So this is just a snapshot of the first one. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail so you can see what is in the implementation. But first, something that we are going to try to do throughout the implementation is where it's possible, we will create these groups called tags, tactical action groups, tag your it. We know that people are very passionate about downtown. They want to be a part of it. They want to have a say. They want to be sitting at the table and offering their ideas. So how can we create small opportunities for small groups to do that they can help us, they can start implementing some of these things. They can come together and they can work with us and others to make these things happen. Different tags for different objectives. So it's not a requirement that if you're on one, you have to be on 100. This is really understanding that people have a passion for a very particular thing. They may love Paris Street, but the thing that they really care about is ensuring that there's public art along Paris Street. They don't really care that the road is a shared road and that sidewalks work. That's just not their thing. That'd be great. That's not what they want to do. So this is how we're going to try to bring people in throughout the process. So if we just take a deep dive into the Paris Street, celebrate Paris Street as a unique destination. We understand that there are three primary elements of this goal, and that is they include physical improvements, small business opportunities, and events and placemaking. And it says here led by the tag. It actually will be led by us. We will be leading this and bringing the individuals together, and it also has the number of partners that we will be working with on this overall goal. To dive in, this gives you a little bit of detail. Form a tag to guide the overall vision for Paris Street as a must-see cultural destination. And under that, we have two main things that we would be looking at. Let me back up and say this is not one of the first ones that we're stepping out with. This is just an example so that you can see the level of detail. But it really is looking at bringing that stakeholder together. We are aware that there was a Paris Street Forum that existed a few years ago, starting with that group and perhaps bringing others in to start the conversation about how can we ensure that we are listening to and being mindful of what needs to happen along Paris Street, and then creating a multi-year action plan. This is where the importance of ensuring that we're bringing our partners that are doing other plans, because someone may be doing something very similar, and we just have a small thing that we would add on to another plan that's happening, or there's a way to merge what we're talking about with something bigger that's happening, or it could be a brand new idea that is brought to you in order to, as a future project. Go a step further. How do we redesign Black Wall Street Gardens to honor the area's history while welcoming a greater range of visitors and foot traffic. So very much taking a look at the Black Wall Street Gardens and Black Wall Street Plaza and how we convene people together to really talk about what's going to go there, perform public outreach to gather input on what the future should look like, identify potential funding sources. So also embedded in here is that our anticipation is not that you all fund everything unless you want to. Certainly we would not say no, but identifying nonprofits and philanthropic individuals and national organizations that also share a similar understanding of the importance of this. And then develop a call for artists in order to start working with the public art. Explore redevelopment opportunities for the Chapel Hill Street surface parking lot. That is something that, what if? This is a big what if. If we could do that and kind of expand the ability to do events within the downtown area and really uplifting the experience along Black Wall Street Garden. When someone wants to come do something that is related to Black Wall Street, doing it along Paris Street and doing a block party and shutting the street down and bringing that fill back. These are some of the ideas that we have that would allow for us to look at the redevelopment of Chapel Hill. Many of these things would very much be working in tandem with the city and the county staff and coming to you. So understanding that this is, again, a joint partnership with the city. This is just how we're going to try to hold ourselves accountable. Another example is improving access to capital for entrepreneurs, especially Black small businesses. So again, working with our partners, our CDFI partners and nonprofits, banks, on how we may be able to not only identify where or how, are they little pop-up stalls that we could install along Orange Street and then rent them out and then provide a little bit of funding through a CDFI or another lender where they could just do a pop-up and start getting a feel for what it's like to do business in the downtown area. In addition to that, how do we provide technical assistance so that they can remain strong and successful in what they're trying to do and perhaps grow? Provide storytelling opportunities through programming and temporary and permanent installations. Again, using some of the spaces along Black Wall Street in order to do this, working with our partners to do this, working with the public spaces to do this, uplifting what is available, what the story is, what the history is of Black Wall Street. And again, this is just one example. We could dive in really deep, but I'm actually going to let you leave before 5 o'clock, so we won't do that. So what are we already doing? I mean, we've come with this plan. Are we doing anything to even start moving the plan? And in fact, we are. So I've done this. I've color-coded it based on the goals, rooted and ready. We already know that there is some public art happening in downtown. There's a public art being installed on the firehouse in the downtown area. So we're appreciative of the city moving forward with this. So we know that some things are already happening along that. Opening for business. We will be rolling out safety ambassadors this month that will be trained. It's a small group of 3 individuals, but we heard that loud and clear. So they are going through their training now. Working with our partners, our vendor, block by block. So we will be introducing 3 safety ambassadors, working closely with the HART team as well as the police when necessary. Safety resource for downtown businesses and residents. We have created a magnet which has a list of who to call based on what the issue is. You have a trash issue, you call this person. Unhoused issue, you call this number. Yes, that's it right there. So Carl has one. I did not plant that. Thanks, buddy. On brand. A retail market analysis and strategy. We know that we need more retail. We've got wonderful places to eat. We have a number of places for you to eat, great places for you to enjoy a wonderful beverage, but we have been struggling with retail. Prior to COVID, we had funding where we were going to do a retail analysis. That didn't really work in 2020, so we kind of pivoted that money and did streeteries. But we're coming back around to how can we be intentional about the retail that we bring into the downtown area and how can we support that? And again, this would be looking at, are there certain policies that we should have in place working with the city and the county to really make retail businesses interested in the downtown area and wanting to move forward with that? And then, so we are starting that process. You were so gracious in allowing, including our budget. So we are having a conversation with one of our consultants at and Access on how to put together an RFP to move forward with creating the analysis and then the strategy to bring retail in the downtown area. We are just starting to have the conversations. Retail incubator, we are moving forward with a brand new concept. So 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, we started this concept of our incubator. Not a pop-up. I'm not a fan of pop-ups because I don't think 30 days give you enough idea of what it's like to run a business in downtown, or really any place, but certainly not downtown, when you have to deal with parking, you have to deal with walk-by traffic, you have to figure out what's my window display need to look like, how do I draw people in. So in front of our office space at 307 West Main, we have a small pop-up. We have had we have had four different entrepreneurs in that space, trying to get them used to the downtown area and what it would take. One of those businesses actually did so well, we let the business stay there for a year, did so well that they were able to move into a larger space. That is what we would like to see. But also we had a business that realized brick and mortar is not what I need to do. I cannot do the intense product that I have in a manner that someone can just walk in and get it. It's much better if I do it through the mail, through eBay. That's an old word, but online. There we go, online. So we probably saved that individual quite a bit of money, that they did not go out and spend a lot of money on rent and furnishings. So that was a success as well. We are now taking that concept and working with our partners at Self-Help. We are moving to Market Street, the old Empower Dance Studio, and we are converting that into a business incubator, a retail incubator. All retail. We will have 3 small entrepreneurs in that space. We are also working with the Durham Arts Guild. They will have art from a local artist up on the wall. So we are very excited about that opportunity. More information will be coming. We're pushing information out about the 3 entrepreneurs. We also have the wraparound service. So we are working with Infinity Bridges, who will be working with those 3 cohorts, giving them the necessary assistance that they need in order to grow their business or identify, yep, maybe downtown isn't for you. So those are some of the things we're working on under Open for Business. Welcome Home, unhoused strategic plan, that's all you and the county. And we are very supportive of that. I serve on the advisory committee on that. We're very excited about what they're bringing in, what the ideas that they're sharing. So a thank you to you for having the foresight to do that. And we're very happy to be a part of that. We are also aware that the county had an RFP for a day center. Again, that's the city and the county. So you are doing some of this stuff that's in our blueprint. Revamp our It's Your Neighborhood Residential Council. So that is something that we do internally. We have an email for anyone that lives in the 01 district. You can sign up for it. We have some businesses that provide incentives because you're a resident, but then we also do an email weekly letting them know, hey, this is the big event that's happening downtown. Oh, you should do this thing. Did you know? Trying to build that community. This is your home. Some of these people may move. They may move out into another part of Durham, but we want their first experience, if it's downtown, to be one that they fall in love with and they keep coming back and they bring their friends. We also have a resident council, so kind of maybe a little bit of a tag, but not really, because they are kind of helping us maintain contact with our property managers. We have a lot of market, a lot of multifamily and property managers change, so they're kind of helping us by remaining in touch with them and keeping us informed of who they are. Walk and roll, numerous transportation plans, many transportation plans, and we are working with Sean and his team on all of those. Bus rapid transit through downtown, from Duke to the villages. We're a part of that conversation. The two-lane of Roxborough and Mangum, we're a part of those conversations. The bike facility plan that is along Corcoran, Blackwell, Corcoran, Foster, we're a part of that conversation. Parking challenges, we, as you know, are a part of those conversations. So we are having those conversations. We're a part of those, the implementation of those things, and working to ensure that the voices of the downtown businesses are there at the beginning of the conversation and not in the middle or the end. Common ground. This is, again, the open spaces that we have, the alleys, things like that. We are working with the city's innovation team. In fact, the students from NC State will be in town next week to present their ideas around a paper street. What can we do with some of our paper streets to make them inviting, places that people want to stay and linger? I'm so very excited that the I-team brought us in on that conversation. The historic Durham Athletic Park feasibility study. you all are doing that, looking at how we can make that an event-driven, but also perhaps a space for people to be in. And then, of course, the Durham Central Park Vision Plan. So as you probably can see in some of these things, we know that we can't nor should we be doing everything. We have partners that are doing a lot of the things, and how can we use this blueprint to uplift the work that they are doing as well? Downtown Works, commercial land trust study. We have $10,000 that we will start looking at what would it mean to build a land trust of available commercial property in the downtown area. How would we go about identifying that? What things would we need to have in place? Similar to the, is it the Durham Land Trust? Yes, similar to that, but with a bent on commercial. We're just beginning that, so I have nothing to share with you. If you ask, the answer is I have nothing to share. We're just exploring, getting ready to put together a scope of work for that. DDI available property database, we have that. We continue to ensure that that is maintained so that people don't have to go through us, but they can go to our website and find out what's available, and then exploring event-driven opportunities. Again, that is working with the city on what to do with the historic athletic park, with Durham Next and Discover Durham on the possibility of a convention center, entertainment center in the downtown area. And then finally, the more you know, that is continuing to do, and if I do say so myself, the great work we do at marketing what's happening in downtown through our amazing marketing team and our partners who take our message and uplift that, continuing to do that and finding better ways to do that. Man, that's all I have for you. I'm sorry it ended so quickly. I am happy to take any questions that you have, but very excited. Truly, what we are. This has been 2 years, so this is great to be at this point to present to you.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Councilmember Baker and then Councilmember Rist.
Yeah, I think first I just want to say that I will be supporting that we move forward with adopting this at the council level. I think this plan nails it. I think that entire group, the consulting group, everyone that got involved, everyone that's been involved with this project has done a phenomenal job. I really couldn't have imagined a plan with better recommendations. And I would be thrilled, and I hope that my colleagues agree that we should move forward with adopting this at the city level and making it our second small area plan in quite a while that we'll be adopting. You know, downtown is our most walkable part of our city, and yet it's still incredibly auto-centric in design. And just walking around downtown, you really feel like it's still mostly for cars, even though it's much more for pedestrians and transit riders than any other part of our city. And this really creates the vision for how we get to a stronger downtown. I mean, it's an amazing vision, the vision and the strategy for how we get there.
Thank you.
So I'm just want to lift up a few things that you've talked about and a few things that are in the plan that I am particularly excited about. This isn't everything, but just a few of these things. One, I really like the idea of making sure that some or all of this is translated into Spanish. You mentioned the quick guide. I think that would be a really good idea to make this very accessible and for us to be consistent in providing those translations. There are so many incredible recommendations. I wish we could all do them now. But they'll have to be implemented, obviously, over years and over decades, quite frankly.
If you wanted to give us money, we could start.
A lot of great catalyst projects. Some things that frankly I've been thinking about for a long time as well. The redevelopment of the surface parking right across the street. This incredible space that we have that is parking right now. I mean, it's just space for vehicles right across from our primary civic building in our city. That's a huge opportunity, and the one that's been identified here. Redevelopment of the loop. I mean, this is something that has been around since the loop got created. Nobody wants to take credit for creating the loop, and everyone wants to be the one to redevelop the loop. But I think what this plan does is it is very strategic in saying, you know, there's certain portions of the loop where it would be a huge opportunity to develop. You know, the parking lot right back here is obviously a huge catalyst opportunity site. The portion of the loop between here and the library, and bringing the library so that it is this incredible new building that's been redeveloped, such a popular space in our city, and reconnecting it to our downtown, to our primary activity center would just be an enormous catalyst project, I think, with the awkward virtually on and off ramps that we have there. So much poorly used space right there would be a huge opportunity. CCB Plaza, I think one day we'll look back at pictures, you know, future generations will look back at pictures of CCB Plaza today and just wonder, you know, how do we get to a place where we had a road running through the middle of our primary civic space? You know, I hope that we can move forward one day with, and one day soon with upgrading, you know, CCB Plaza, renaming CCB Plaza. Though I remember when that was a parking lot. Affordable office space, something that is way less sexy than everything else in the plan, but something that is so important is preserving some of these kind of aging office spaces where we've had really important tenants providing great services for many years, and making sure that they can continue to occupy space in downtown. I think the retail study that you're moving forward with is incredibly important as well. When you look at retail in downtown, there's no secret about why retail is struggling, because it's so dispersed, and Durham, quite frankly, lacks anywhere in our city a great retail street. There are different kinds of retail that are doing well and poorly across the country. Delivery and massive warehousing is obviously flourishing, but place-based retail is obviously doing very well in many places, and we see that in places like the cities in North Carolina that have great retail streets, like Asheville and Wilmington and Greensboro. I also really love the commercial land trust idea. I think that's, I know that that's at the very beginning stage, but I love that idea. And I love the tactical action groups. I think those are so important for actually making sure that the many, many pages of implementation ideas that there are in this plan end up moving forward. I also just want to say that, you know, I think that we see ourselves, continue to see ourselves as a very monocentric city. You know, we sort of refer to downtown as this unique, one-of-a-kind space because it is mixed use and dense and has the characteristics of a city. It has small connected blocks. It has alleys. It has really important civic spaces. Just all the elements that make a city feel like a city. In addition, I think that, you know, we could start thinking of ourselves more as a polycentric city. We could start fostering more places around that don't take away from our downtown, but have those characteristics of a walkable, transit-oriented city in other parts of Durham. And I think that that's something that we should talk about and strive for. So once again, I just want to say thank you. This plan nails it. You did a great job. The folks that you had working on it did a great job. I know how hard these are. I'm a consultant on the Brownsville downtown master plan right now, and it's hard work. It's fun work. So I just have, let's see, two little questions here for you. One is, I'm just curious, what were the touch points for, you know, the city has a long-range planning function. I'm just curious what role the Durham Planning Department played, if it played any role in this specific process. That's my first question. And the second question is grocery store.
So the first question, we worked really closely with the planning department. We had a conversation with the planning department about the best way to get this plan adopted. Our previous master plans, we typically just came to the city council and said, will you adopt it? And they were like, yeah. But in talking with Sarah and Bo, they suggested that it'd be best to have it as a staff recommendation. So that shows the support of the plan. We are working with the planning department on how we can get in front of the directors, perhaps piggybacking on conversations around the comp plan. We are tracking where the UDO is and how that fits into our plan and where we have input in that. I shouldn't say where, but how we have input as that plan is coming to a conclusion. So I would say we've been very close with all the departments, but certainly with the planning department, because this is a plan. And it was intentional. It was set out to be, what are the things, the unsexy things that we keep overlooking and say we should do, but don't really put the attention? How do we really go about making sure that we address those? And we could not have done it without the support and input of the planning department. Grocery store, almost forgot, but you weren't going to let me forget. Yeah, everybody would want one, and I think that could be identified in that retail plan, that retail market plan. There are just a lot of challenges with it, some of them true, some of them not, some of them are perceptions, but I think the retail plan, the analysis, and then the study could get us to what would make sense in the downtown area. I do always like to call out, though, that we do have the Durham Co-op. That is not that far away. People think it's a far, long way. It really is not. Understanding that walking that may not be the most pleasant thing, but it is not that far. And we do have a small bodega in the middle of downtown as well.
Thank you. So I hope that we all will support moving forward with city adoption of this plan. I think it's really exciting. This is great work. Very clearly spent some money on this. The team that was put together obviously did a lot of work. They did a great job. We aren't going to spend we're not going to put this amount of resources into every single small area plan. But I do think that this is a really good model for the level of work that it takes to do a great small area planning. And really, I think other parts of our city deserve this quality or something close to it. And so I do hope that, as we continue with small area planning in other parts of our city that, again, like this is next level. We do see ourselves as a monocentric city, but that we do put in a lot of work and effort into getting these kinds of great details right, which this plan does. So thank you again for all of your work, and look forward to next steps on this.
Thank you. And I should say that we could not have done it without the city support. I should have probably led with this, the city support, the county support, as well as a few private sector. And I'm going to get in trouble because I'm going to try to do it off my head. NCCU, Mechanics and Farmers, Perkins and Will, Lynn Solomon, Duke University. Yeah, we will. I'll have that list when we present.
Yeah, it's on the third page of the plan.
It is in the plan. Yes, it is definitely within the plan. But it does show that there was public and private support of this plan. And then the money that we were able to raise allowed us to do quite a bit of public engagement. So a good bit of that went to the intense public engagement that we did.
Thank you, Councilmember Rist.
Wow, a lot to say. Thank you, Councilmember Baker, for your comments. I'll just add on to some of those. I guess the first thing I'll say is I am so proud to be on the DDI board. And I know that I say this a lot in meetings because the mayor has appointed me to a lot of different boards and commissions. And I get in trouble sometimes when I sort of pick out one as my favorite. It's like a parent, picking one of your children. But like, this is one of my favorite boards. And I really want to thank you for that. And your staff who are here for all the work they do, the great work. I also want to give a little bit of love to Nicole for your leadership. Nicole and I have known each other longer than either one of us wants to admit.
Only 5 years.
Yeah. And I'm glad we stole you away from my hometown of Leadville, Colorado, just to say. So we're so glad you're here and all the work you're doing. This is an amazing plan. It's been fun to work with you and the staff and the consultants in developing this. I think it's amazing. In fact, I think it's a small area plan, but it's way more than a small area plan. It's a blueprint for downtown, right? I think it's worth noting, I think you had this in your comments, maybe the staff in their initial memo, that, the initial vision was 2020, right? And at that point, it was like, and a lot of us who've been in downtown since then or in Durham since then know that downtown was a different place then. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like a vision. We wanted to see like this downtown start thriving again because it wasn't thriving. And we are like 25 years later in a different place completely. And so, but I think the challenge for you is actually increased. So now it's not just creating a vision and trying to get it going, but now it's trying to, how do you, I mean, as you said in that one slide about downtown today, how do you take now the new reality of downtown and keep it thriving? And it's much more complicated now, right? Before it was just, can we get it going? And now it's like a complicated challenge. So thanks for weighing into that challenge. There's so many things I love here. I love the coordination with other plans. We often talk about, we got all these plans, but they're not talking to one another. So you've clearly articulated in your slides and in your comments, clear connection to all the other plans. Durham Next is here, or Discover Durham. So that's one key piece. And so, or the transportation plan. So thanks for coordinating what you're doing with all the other plans that we're investing in and putting a lot of effort into. I love both the sort of big vision, sort of big picture kind of stuff, and sort of like dealing with things like office space downtown, some of the big issues, transportation downtown, but then also the fine grained stuff like the alleys downtown, thinking about how do we activate those alleys. So it's kind of both big picture and small grain stuff that's really impressive. I appreciate your presence being here as a constant you and your staff, constant presence and spokesperson for downtown, which it needs, and so that makes a big difference. Just a couple questions, because there's some neat stuff that we talked about in great detail on the board. I want to give you a chance to kind of talk about. One of them is the downtown loop, because I know there's been different versions of what that might look like, whether that's two-waying the whole loop, or I think as Councilmember Baker talked about, sort of just focusing on some of those key intersections downtown. So tell me the latest thinking in terms of what's your big vision for how to address, because I know that when you think about the loop, sometimes it gets so big and it just gets kind of complicated. So tell me what your latest vision for how we can do that, and whether we can do that with some of these kind of smaller intersections and really make it happen.
So our hope would be that we do take a deep dive working with the city, the county, NCDOT, and NCRR, because it touches all of those, and find a way to two-way it. It would slow the traffic down. It would make the crossing a lot easier. We could do some pretty creative things, beautiful things, I should say, along the sidewalks, be a bit more intentional, encourage the development that may occur in some areas to face the loop rather than turn their back on the loop. Councilman Baker called out something that is really a challenge, and that is the library. The library sits kind of off by itself.
Like 6 lanes or whatever,
Yeah, I actually walked it yesterday, and it's 3-4 lanes, and then 2 lanes that kind of go the entrance onto the loop. And then you hit a parking lot that could become quite a nice green area if it were to become two-way, and you could start taking over some of the land. And now you've got a park that kind of runs and captures Rotary Park. And then there's just a nice green area that could support an amenity in the parking lot beside what I think the county has the VA affairs office in. But if you're at the library, you've got to get through all of that before you get to the end of Paris Street to then actually start hitting things that you would interact with. So looking at how we can bring a lot of the amenities and assets that the city owns and bring them a part of this growing downtown and make them feel a part of what's happening in the downtown. Similar, but to a lesser degree, the crossing from Corcoran to Foster over the loop. And on that other side, the amenities that exist there, we've got a rail line that's coming in. We've got a Carolina Theater celebrating 100 years, and how we could do something with that park, how we could support a potential of entertainment convention center that may be in the area. How do we ensure that people can move back and forth and they don't get to a barrier and go, now I'm not going to do that because I don't see a reason to keep going. So I think it's very key to try to really work and identify how we make that loop a two-way. I'm tying into some of the things that we were already working on, the two-waying of Mangum and Roxborough, the bus rapid transit. If there's a way that as we do that, just going ahead and taking sections. We're just starting to really get into it, and there are a lot of people that are providing a lot of advice, but I've been told that it doesn't have to be done all at once, that you could phase it in. So that takes a little bit of the, oh my God, out of it, because you can kind of phase it in if done, and if the thinking is done now. So it is, the beauty of this plan is that there's a lot in there, but it gives us the ability to pivot based on the priority that we need to address. I think there's some things that we will start, and it'll take a while to build out. There are quite a few quick things, but then there are these bigger visions that we need to work on and really bring the community together to uplift and figure out how do we do it and do it right.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, look forward to working together with you on that piece. The last one is I want to give you a chance to say a little bit more about the publicly owned space or sites that you talked about reserving for multi-use or for mixed income development. Those are some really interesting parts of the plan, and I know that you that was a quick bullet point there, but if you'd say a little bit more about those, like which spaces those are and what you envision, because I think that's really interesting stuff to think, again, about not just what's happening now and all the details we got to deal with now, but also like that vision for the future, which is really exciting.
Well, it's getting at being intentional about how we grow downtown, and how do we, if we create a vision for for property, sticking with that vision and ensuring that the vision is inspiring. There are a number of sites that are not.
And for folks who haven't maybe read the plan, just pick one of those sites and just sort of describe a little bit like what that might look like. I think it's interesting stuff.
We could take 505 Chapel Hill Street. I'll be back. I'll be back at your next work session. But how we could hear all the things that want to be in that space, but then also recognizing the anchor of where it sits. Yeah, and a lot of people get caught up that, it's right off of 147, but if you stand back, it is a key connection to the potential development at American Tobacco Campus, phase 3. It is a key development on the ongoing development of the Durham ID. It is sitting very adjacent to the Durham Beltline. So how to, and it also, as we were talking about the co-op, it is a way to continue to draw people and get people to keep moving. It is a key entry point into the downtown area. What makes sense and how can we be intentional and come up with a vision that speaks to today's downtown environment and holding tight to what that looks like. There are a lot of ideas and a lot of people wanting to do things specifically with that site, but there are other sites that are currently being used, but there could be better uses of that. And I think it's a moment now that we can sit down and really talk about what could we do? How could we build some of the interesting things that we saw on the inner city visit? How could we start in incorporating some of those things in the downtown area that are bringing people in, introducing people in, keeping people here?
Love it. Yeah, thank you. Well, I will enthusiastically support as well us adopting this as an official city plan. So, look forward to other comments from my colleague. Thank you, Nicole, again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Cook.
I'll be brief. I just want to echo the thanks to you and all of the folks that worked on this. I don't think it's anyone's first time seeing it up here today, but just want to say that it's super comprehensive. I had many of the same thoughts as my colleagues. I also walked to the library yesterday, right there. I don't know what time you were there, but I do walk that a lot because when I get books from the library, I tend to walk from our parking garage here, and it is a horrendous walk. And also, when I do my monthly HTEC meetings, I walk to the DSS building downtown, and that also makes me have to cross the loop there, and it is just awful. So lots of on my mind things there. The Corcoran-Blackwell activation area, I think, is really important. There's a kind of a couple strips up in the northern part of the loop where there's so much good on both sides, but there's not much in between. So I'm really glad to see that conversation happening around getting folks moving from space to space and activating that movement. I want to just highlight that I love the retail incubator. I feel like this is something that as soon as I learned about it, I tell people this all the time. Folks are always really excited to learn that y'all are doing that. So I just want to shout out that is going down, and we've had, seems like, a lot of success from that so far, watching retail move out of that incubation space and then be able to be in a brick and mortar space, which has been really, really cool. I was curious about conversations with property owners, but I mean specifically these larger commercial landlords downtown, because I know that we do have quite a lot of space sitting vacant. How much conversation that you had with them in this plan? Do we have buy-in from folks? Of course, I know that some of the people are not local. We've got some corporate owners that are out of state, but I was just wondering if you could talk about that at all.
We are having some conversations, and in fact, we started having great conversations with owners of some of the newer developments on Rigsby. And they found out about us because of the blueprint and the event that we had at Pickleback.
Oh, cool.
Not sure how they did, but we were excited that they did. And I've been a part of 2 conversations with them and other property owners in that area. There's certainly an interest in a support. We have not gone into depth like, but this is what you could do. But I think there's some interest. Certainly not everybody, but I think many people who are in downtown, they may come thinking one thing, but then they sit in the space and they realize this is a different space. And they approach us with, how can we do better? How can we do more? Recognizing that we have some spaces that we continue to work on to fill that are in the middle of our downtown that need to be filled. And we're trying to have those conversations with their brokers, trying to encourage them to create warm shell space rather than what is currently, recognizing that a small business can't come in and upfit a concrete or a gravel slab. So pushing on that regard. But I will say that we have spoken to most, probably not all, but most of the property owners in the downtown area. Certainly our longtime property owners have been involved from the very beginning, very excited about that. We've had 1 or 2 who heard about the land trust and they're like, oh, that's interesting. So I think varying levels of interest, but as this becomes an adoptable plan and being able to pull out parts and go and say, this is the part that really speaks to you and how can we work with you? And then, working with our partners, with the planning department, just to ensure that we are pushing the same message forward and encouraging folks to have the bigger vision like we do. That yes, you've got one building, but your building is a part of something much grander, and how can you be a part of that visioning?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that it's just a frustrating thing to see businesses not be able to afford those spaces or upfit it, like you were just saying, and so much sitting vacant, particularly on street level, where I feel like we could have so much activation and it's like we could have the most beautiful plan, but if we don't have buy-in from the stakeholders, then it's unfortunately won't work. But I'm glad to hear those conversations are happening. I know y'all are working really hard on that, and I also want to just say that I support the plan as a whole. So I'm excited to adopt it and have our next small area plan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Presiding Chair. Just to build on that, and Nicole, you may want to add to this if you'd like. So we actually did have a long conversation at one of our DDI meetings about this exact issue with our consultant. And it's one of those. It's one of those. It's like there's a million public policy challenges in a city like Durham, and one of them is that these bigger residential buildings, many of them are owned by these larger real estate investment trusts, right? And so their market is really housing, right? And so for them, having downtown retail or first floor retail space is kind of like, they do it there because they know cities want it, but it's almost like a carrying cost in their books. They don't really, I don't say they don't care, but it's sort of like it's a carrying cost. And so they don't understand local markets as well, right? Local retailers. And so often the space, as we talked about, is probably too big for a local retailer, not well situated. And so it's sort of like, it's kind of a mismatch. And so part of the conversation we had is like, how do we recognize that real challenge there with who owns the property and how they're sort of structured? And how do we work with them to think about ways that help them understand like a local retailer? Because they may understand like the big guy, like the Starbucks and Panera, but they may not understand local retailers. So again, we've had a good conversation. Appreciate your understanding of like nuance there and how do we sort of like solve that? Because it's not easy, but it's something we can solve.
And it also gets to the retail marketing analysis. That is where we would dive in, identifying what do we have and does it really fit what we think we can bring in the downtown area. So that deeper dive of identifying what we have.
Even to the point of, like we are so, our downtown retail is dominated. It's fully like all local retailers, right? But then there's this question like, if there were a proposal to bring like a Starbucks or a couple chains, would that be okay? Yeah. And maybe if that's the price for occupying some of these spaces, maybe that's okay. But I know it's a sensitive topic because we really value our local retailers. So again, thanks for that sort of very like honest conversation about what's possible and what we can build.
Yeah, because I think we do have to consider what that might look like, but I think also can be some intentionality. Is it a Urban Outfitters? Maybe not, but is there something else that we aren't aware of that would make sense. And how do we actively go and recruit? So there is a little bit in the plan that would be recruitment of, rather than just waiting for, but identifying and going out and introducing them to the downtown and bringing them in and letting them feel the vibe and figure out how they might want to participate.
Thank you. I just want to say, does anyone else have any questions?
Well, just the last thing too, like, thanks for mentioning the grocery stores, because like the co-op is like, let's hear it for the co-op. It's an amazing grocery store. It's in our downtown. It's adjacent. Adjacent, yeah. But a great retailer, yeah. So, and I did also notice that Raleigh's they've got a grocery store downtown. I just noticed. I'm jealous.
They do. Yeah. They do.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add. I agree with my colleagues. I think it's a great plan. I do want to say on the grocery side, like everywhere, it's a chain. I think folks just need to realize if we want a grocery store, it's not going to be the co-op. I love the co-op. I'm a member. I shop there regularly. You can't get a cheap toothbrush, and sometimes you just need a cheap toothbrush, especially if we're thinking about like Durham Next and things like that. Many of us travel, and it's real nice to have a Walgreens or a CVS that you just run around the corner for because you forgot your deodorant, right? And so I think that we need to we all love downtown vibe and we want that, but I've seen some real thoughtful downtowns that is predominantly locally owned, but they have a couple of those anchor chains, and so I appreciate that y'all are thinking really thoughtfully about that. I will say I think it's a Publix in downtown Raleigh. I am envious of that. And to that point around a whole downtown, that's what it's going to take to really get downtown to be kind of what we really think of when we think of a downtown. Yeah. I also just want to say I really appreciate the intentionality of thinking through the Latino community. I'll say I see lots of different folks downtown, but often when I see people that are Latino downtown, it's because they're cooking my food or, in the restaurant scene as workers. Yeah. And that's vital, but I want folks to feel like that they're here to just also be residents and be just regular people as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I don't think I have anything else to add. Just curious, because I couldn't remember in Austin, I think that was one of the criticisms of Austin's downtown was that it was great that had so many local things downtown, but they're also struggling with that balance of chains versus locally owned. Yes. So it is an issue across many downtowns. And so in that way, Durham is not unique. But
I had a lot of conversations with my colleagues in Austin last week.
I remember that was a thing that popped up. So thank you, colleagues. I think that's all. Thank you so much. I think staff got their guidance as far as moving forward and adopting this as one of our formal plans. I also want to thank planning staff and other city departments who worked really, really closely. This is exciting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Very much appreciate your time. And we are happy to talk with any of you individually about this. And I do recognize that we're missing 3. Happy to talk to those. And as well as new council members that will be in place when this comes before you for an official vote.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Mr. Manager, I think we are ready to settle. And I think it's just one item on GBA. Item number 2.
Recording stopped.
And then public hearing, item number 12?
That's correct. So what I have, Madam Chair, is consent items 1, 3, and 5 through 10. GBA is item 2. GBA public hearing is item 12. Item 4 is one that's been referred back to staff that we'll bring forward on a later basis.
Thank you. Could I please get a motion to settle the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you so much for that. And I think unless there are any other items, Councilmember Cook?
I'm just curious, are we going to put the blueprint on for as an action item?
Yes. Mr. Dobrinsky let me know that he thinks we're targeting the second work session in December to bring that forward.
Yes, bringing it forward the second meeting in December for adoption.
Thank you. I think December 16th, is that correct? That work session? Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Can I ask also, is there some, I thought I talked with Shay about it. Is there some question about the 16th, whether we're going to meet on Tuesday or that
It's already been moved. Just thank you for that, Councilmember Rist. We are meeting Monday and Tuesday of that week.
Okay.
So council meeting on Monday, work session on Tuesday.
That's correct.
yeah, council meeting is on Monday, December 15th. The work session is on Tuesday, December 16th. Anything else, colleagues? Yep.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Chair.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 3:09.